Hello and welcome to our fourth episode. Ooh, so exciting. Wow, we're already up to four of Rambles and Revelations with Coach Revs. I'm so excited you're here and thank you so much for joining me once again. Today's topic of discussion is the fear factor unveiled, tapping into wisdom for a courageous life. Why are we afraid of what we're afraid of? How to I wouldn't say get over our fear, but maybe identify it and perhaps um, get through it or face it and find courage in the face of fear. This topic came up because, as some of you may know, I absolutely love doing aerial silks, which for those of you who don't know what that is, they're like two straps of material hanging from the ceiling that you do all sorts of, you kind of wrap yourself in them and tie yourself up and throw yourself down. You can do all sorts of different exercises in them, and they're basically hanging from the ceiling, and they can be anywhere from 2 meters to 4 meters or 5. So yeah, it came into I thought to discuss this discussion because so many people have been asking me lately, what is it that are you not afraid? Are you not afraid? Are you afraid to fall? Are you afraid of heights? Are you afraid? And it's literally the last session I was at, just as the coach said, go climb up onto the silks. I was like off like a monkey. I'm not even kidding. Like I was just like, and I was up at the top. And I was just hanging out there at the top and smiling from ear to ear. And there were other people in the class that they'll climb, they'll do it, but they do it almost like a little bit reserved, or they'll do it because they kind of enjoy the exercise and they kind of enjoy the drills. But I absolutely love heights. I don't know where it comes from. I don't know exactly. I love extreme sports. I love skydiving and bungee jumping and zip lines. And literally, like anytime somebody asks me what I love most, I'm always like, any sport that takes my feet off the ground. I love flying. I love the feeling of flying. I just love soaring. And it made me think because people have been asking me, like, are you not afraid? And I think I'm not afraid. Okay. That's first of all, I get a rush. I get excited. It's fun for me. Um, so no, I'm not afraid. And recently I was just in a discussion with a whole bunch of people, and we were discussing the difference between fear and curiosity. And I was saying how I think I'm not afraid because I get curious. Because when I tap into things that are a little bit scary, I get a rush. Things that are a little bit scary, I get a rush of excitement. I get like this like butterflies in my stomach. As I'm sure like I can identify it potentially in the past as anxiety. I'll get butterflies in my stomach, I'll get sweaty palms. But I was once listening to actually a podcast by Simon Sinek, and he was talking about I think he was talking about fear as well, and it was either him or somebody else. I don't recall the exact scenario, so don't quote me on this, but he was saying something along the lines how he went to speak to a whole bunch of athletes before an Olympic game, and he asked them, "Are you nervous or are you excited?" And they said they're excited. And now nervousness and excitement can come across as looking the exact same in the body. You got butterflies in your stomach, you got sweaty palms, your heart is racing, you're kind of like a little all over the place. There's a bit of adrenaline pumping. Um, and it's basically, if you were to take that and just call it anxiety, then you would have this like little negative feeling attached to it. You'd have this like, I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid, I'm so afraid. Whereas if you call it excitement, it's like, oh, I'm so excited, I'm so excited, I'm so excited. And it feels better. It feels better the way we identify it. And I think I've just translated that fear into curiosity or into excitement. Whereas again, like I will get afraid. I'll get afraid, let's say, not from heights and not from falling and those kinds of things. But let's say I'll get afraid if I have to introduce myself to a stranger. Like, I know to some people that sounds really, really simple, but like, I would get really afraid. I'll be like, oh my God, I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to mess up. What do I say? How do I do this? How do I do this? I just feel like socially, I don't always have, I always do. It always happens. So I've stopped getting so afraid, to be honest. But I used to be really, really, really socially anxious. And now I kind of get curious. I really, really kind of throw myself into social situations and I get curious as to what is going to come out of my mouth, because I can have situations where I will practice introducing myself. Don't judge me. You can judge me. It's okay. Whatever. I will practice introducing myself like, hi, my name is Fevy. I'm a personal trainer, or whatever job I would like to label myself as at the moment. Entrepreneur life for you. And I'm originally from Toronto. Now I'm living abroad, and blah, 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 blah. But all of a sudden, first of all, like, the questions won't always match up to the conversation. So much for that practice. And also, I've noticed that it'll just, whatever's meant to come out will come out anyways, like, no matter what I practiced. So I've stopped trying to practice, to be honest. And I've stopped trying to prepare. Although I do still like to think that I on a rare occasion, I still will mentally play out a conversation in my head. And usually the actual conversation goes a lot better than I prepared it in my head. And I'm a lot less panicky and a lot less socially awkward. I mean, like, wait, how do I answer this question? What do I do? What do I do? So, okay, I think I got a little bit off topic here. But basically what I'm saying is that fear versus excitement can look the same, can feel the same. And a lot of it is just a question of how we identify it and how we think about it. So that's number one. Like, if you're coming to something that is scary, I'm going to talk about me. And you can use it in a you context, because I try not to give advice to people, because I do believe that we all have our own internal compass that tells us exactly what to do and how to do it. Sorry, little side note there. But when I get afraid, I just try to stop and identify what it is that I'm afraid of, right? Interesting. Okay, I might be afraid of meeting a new person. I might be afraid of going into a party where I don't know anyone. And also, another thing that I've really recently discovered is that embracing the idea of embarrassing myself. Okay, stay with me here. This is actually embarrassing to say this out loud. Okay, I'm blushing. It's okay. But I think recently I've been going to a lot of new different types of classes. And I went to a dance class where I sometimes mix up right and left, okay? And doing a dance class in another language is even more complicated, with people that have like 5-10 years of experience, even more complicated. And I will just throw myself in and be like, you're here to get yourself humbled, honestly. And so not knowing and coming in not knowing and being straight up like, hey, this is my first dance class. Sorry, I don't know a lot. I might mess up. And then it's out there. It's just out there. Like, I just did it. I faced it. And if I mess up, then I just laugh about it. And if the person judges me, then they judge me. And that's totally fine. You know what? Like, you can judge. Like, when I embrace the idea of humbling myself and embarrassing myself, it's really, really much easier to just jump into things. Today I did something really scary, and I called my friend up panicking, and yeah, she just said, like, it's your time to shine. And it was true. I called her not because I was panicking, because I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to follow through with this commitment that I just made? A, and B, I was so excited. There was this really, really big kind of excitement in my belly of like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, something's about to happen. Something big is about to happen. And I've really just been embracing this, like, just close your eyes and jump, close your eyes and jump, close your eyes and jump. And again, there are still things that I am trying to close my eyes and jump for. There are still fears that I have inside of me that I think I'm more afraid of flopping, of like really putting myself out there and then failing at it. And then being like, okay, I got nothing left. Like it's that feeling of like, I'm going to put my heart and soul out there and then fail badly and then be like, oh, this was my big thing. This was what I was saving up for, right? And then you just, so there is that is that I'm afraid of. But on the other hand, I think even just starting this podcast was a huge step in that direction of being like, okay, listen, like I don't know how many listeners are listening, to be honest. Like sometimes I wish that it was a super popular podcast and like there were thousands of listeners and everybody, and like it's gone viral. And then there's this other times where I'm like, you know what? Like whoever's listening, can we just like have this little intimate moment between us? Because right now I can see the statistics and I can see that I don't have a lot of listeners. So I'm talking to the few of you that are here and listening. Okay. Can we have a little huddle? Come on, huddle in with me. Okay. I don't know what I wanted to say. I pulled in a huddle. I made us all feel special. Like we're part of a thing. Oh yeah, I know. I remember what I wanted to say. Sorry. I'm sorry, I got dramatic there for a second. But what I wanted to say is that I just want to thank you so much for being here. Okay. This is really like I really find it special that you take your time to hear what it is that I have to say. And I really and truly, I'm so grateful for you and so grateful for your support and so grateful for you listening. And B, I truly hope that you are getting some sort of context or good feeling or happiness or joy or insight and wisdom out of what it is that I'm sharing. And number 3, I just want to tell our little intimate group over here that you guys are awesome. Okay. You guys are awesome. Just me, you, and probably my 5 or 6 listeners that I have at this point. Sometimes I get 7 and 8. So our number 9th joiner, welcome. Come on in. You're welcome. And it's just the 9 or 10 of us. Ooh, look what I did there. I just grew. But I really just wanted to say, like, thank you so much for supporting and for being in our little community. And if there's any topic or discussion, I'm going off topic here because I know I'm just having a little intimate chat with you, with our few listeners that are just joining us in. If there's any topic that you kind of would want me to discuss or even be a part of and come join on an interview for this podcast, let me know. Hit me up, reach out to me because I love hearing back from you guys. And just know that like every single one of you is substantial because there's still not a lot of you here. And so you guys are all so substantial to me. And each one is just like, oh, you're listening to me. And I'm so happy you're here. I really am. So if there's anything you want to like reach out and discuss and even come onto the podcast, please reach out. Like, I'm sure all of you who are listening have my WhatsApp or have my Facebook or Instagram. So like you guys know how to reach me. And if you don't, you can just look up Coach Chevs on Instagram or Facebook. That's COACHCHEVZ or Z, depending on where you come from. And please reach out to me. Like, let me know, how you're feeling about our little amazing huddle that we're having here. And B, if you want to come and join, and C, if there's any topics you want to be discussed. Okay, getting back to where we were at. I'm sorry. So all the rest of the listeners, huddlers, get back into your space, get back into your seats. All the rest of us joining in. So I did what I did last week in the last week's episode is, again, I went to ChatGPT and I asked them for questions because carrying a conversation with myself can sometimes be challenging, and it's great to just have these a co-host called we'll give her a name. Maybe by next week they'll have a name, but this week it's still called ChatGPT. Okay. So here is our questions. Okay. So ChatGPT says, fear often comes with a side of what ifs. How do you navigate those anxious thoughts? And do you have any strategies to keep them from spiraling out of control? What a great question. Ooh, yes, there are so many what ifs. Like, what if absolutely nobody listens to my podcast? And what if thousands of people listen to my podcast and hear that I was crazy once? I was crazy once. I'm still crazy. What if, what if everybody knew that? What if everybody knew all the craziness? And what if I make a fool out of myself? What if they judge me? What if I completely flop? What if I succeed? There's so many what ifs. Oh my gosh. Jumping out of a plane. What if I fall? What if I don't open the parachute? Like committing to a job. What if I don't fulfill what they're asking me to fulfill? What if so many. How do I navigate those anxious thoughts? I try when I can to stop them in their tracks. I recognize it and be like, what if I cannot do what it is that they're asking me to do? What if I turn on the podcast and I panic and I have nothing to say and I'm just like, and what if so many? And when they come up, I stop, identify it. I recognize that that is a thought. I recognize that that is a story that I am telling myself and be like, oh, that's a story. I know there's a podcaster that I listen to a lot, or podcaster coach, Michael Neal, and he talks a lot about suffering from suicidal ideation back in the days. And he identified that suicidal thought, which I have totally adopted, as Bob, right? And then when that suicidal thought pops in, it's like, oh, hey, Bob, how you doing, Bob? Bob's just that like annoying little kid in the classroom that like, yeah, whatever. You just got to love him and accept that he's there, but he's not going to do any harm, recognize that he's just there and it's okay. So when the what ifs come in, sometimes I'll give them names if they're like very, very, very common what ifs, and they come in a lot. If it's a story that I'm telling myself over and over and over again, what if you're not great enough? What if you don't have what to say? What if you panic? What if you fail? What if you succeed? All those kinds of things. Those like I sometimes will just give them names and be like, hey, Shirley, thanks for joining us today. Sit down and shh up. So I wouldn't call it a strategy, to be honest. I'm not a strategist. But I am definitely somebody who will stop and identify what is going on. Stop and identify and see the story you're telling yourself, because the story you told yourself, just as much as the story that you are going to commit to something, it's all made up. It's all made up in your head. So that thought that you are telling yourself of, what if I fail big time? Okay. What if? Cool. That's a nice story. And if it doesn't make me feel good, because I like to feel good, surprise, surprise, I just kind of be like, all right, Shirley, thanks for joining us today. And that's it. Like, honestly, I try very hard not to give it a lot of attention. Our thoughts are fluid. Our thoughts keep moving. So the moment I don't give attention to those thoughts, they will disappear. I use this example all the time to explain to people how I started recognizing and things started changing in my life of even fearful thoughts or thoughts in general. Like back in the day, I'm not sure if I said this on another podcast, but you'll hear the story again, because you'll just, if you didn't, you'll hear whatever. Okay. Doesn't matter. Back in the day, I really struggled with suicidal thoughts and suicidal ideation, and I've attempted suicide. Okay. We can discuss that on another podcast. So hang in there and stay tuned. Anyways, back in the day, I would stub my toe into a bed. Okay, cool. God forbid, shouldn't happen, but it happens. Sometimes we're a little clumsy and it happens. Okay. I would stub my toe into the bed, and my first thought is always like, oh, I want to kill myself. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I want to kill myself. And that would be such a great story. Shirley is here to unravel the greatest Aunt Shirley story that has ever happened. I want to kill myself. Oh my gosh, I want to kill myself. What? Kill me now. What is that? Where's that thought coming from? Am I suicidal? Oh my gosh, I must be depressed. I hate my life. My life sucks. I woke up this morning and it's rainy and it's cloudy and I stubbed my toe and it's all just a waste of time. And this is so stupid. And my coffee now spilled. And I just totally go into that. I might as well just like lay down and rest for the rest of the day, because it's just going to be a a day, and excuse my French. And there I am, 12 hours later, still in bed, scrolling through Facebook, feeling like absolute poops about my life. Now, that was a great story that I went and just totally went into and went way down. Today, it's actually not my initial thought anymore, but for a long time it was, where I stubbed my toe and I'd be like, oh my God, kill me now. That like shooting pain is just like, oh my God, kill me now. But here's the big but. I feel like that was a loud but the big but is that I will recognize today, hey, Shirley's here. Shirley likes to come when we stub our toe. Hi, Shirley. Sit down, zip up, and we're going to carry on with our day. It would just be like, you silly girl. It's okay. You don't need to die right now. We have work to do. So today, I think a lot of the what ifs and a lot of the stories that I tell myself, I can learn to identify if they make me feel good, they don't make me feel good. I can just let them be. But by letting them be, I'm not saying go into them. I'm saying just let it pass. Our thoughts are consistently moving. They're fluid. If you're not holding on to it, it'll go. If you hold on to it, it'll stay, and it'll scare the out of you. It will. And so what I'm getting at is basically recognize when there's a fear that comes up or something that you're super afraid of, come to recognize, you can get curious. Okay. That's like, I would say after the level of just recognizing that it's a story of telling yourself. Then it's like, oh my goodness, wow, what is about to happen? And lately, when I'm afraid, I started getting excited because now, thank God, I don't have much social anxiety anymore. I started absolutely being entertained by the things that come out of my mouth. But when I meet new people or go into a new situation, because I started just embracing embarrassing myself. I'm not going to embarrass myself intentionally, but if I do get embarrassed, I'm like, oh, this is humbling, and it's okay not to be perfect. And as a matter of fact, it's absolutely thrilling to not be perfect, because I feel like I've lived my life so many years and for such a long time, like, I need to be perfect. I need to be perfect. I need to be perfect. And like, and so embarrassed. Oh my God, so embarrassing. And I was just like, I'll just walk in and be like, I'm going to embarrass myself right now. Like, just put it out there, or I won't say that, because that's like already like giving myself like permission, but just, it's okay. Like, being embarrassed, being awkward, when you realize that nothing will happen, it's not even when you realize. There's a lot of stories that we tell ourselves about being awkward, about being embarrassed. Awkward is a part of life. I think we all have awkward moments. I remember, oh my God, this is a funny story. I remember I was traveling in Italy on my own, and I was getting hungry. So I went to a pizza shop. And now it's always been like a thing of mine to challenge myself to sit alone in a restaurant. And I was traveling on my own. I hadn't met anyone. And so I walked into the pizza shop, and I was really, really kind of hoping they would give me a seat, in the corner, just me and my phone and whatever. But no, they didn't. They gave me a seat like in the middle of the restaurant, like a busy, 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 busy Italian restaurant. And they gave me a seat smack in the middle. Okay. I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool. That's fine. That's fine. Now, I was like, okay, I could just scroll Facebook or Instagram or just open my phone and get busy on something. But yours truly is, when I'm traveling, I use my phone a lot to get everywhere for Google Translate, Google Maps, like literally, and my phone died. So here's Ravi absolutely embracing this moment. And it wasn't much by choice, but it was just, this is what was happening. This was what was unraveling. So I was just like, all right, challenge accepted. I see fear. I think I see fear, like things that I'm afraid of, almost as a challenge. And when it's a challenge as opposed to a fear, it's almost exciting, because we like to be challenged. We like to be, it's like oh, I could do this. And I think that's kind of how I treat embarrassment and awkwardness and fear. It's all like, ooh, let's see if we can face this challenge. And when you call it something else, it just becomes a whole lot more exciting, to be honest. Challenge, curious, and it's honestly, a lot of it is in the semantics of what you're calling it. and the and how we identify those words, because I think I just have like better thoughts and associations that come with challenges and curiosity and excitement, as opposed to fear, anxiety, and awkward and embarrassing. So I'm sitting there in this restaurant in Italy, in Rome. It was a top rated restaurant on Google reviews, because that's how I choose my places. And I'm sitting there in the middle of the restaurant, and I'm trying really not to make eye contact. I'm trying really hard not to make eye contact with anybody around me. But the pizza, literally, I ordered pizza because I was in Rome. When in Rome, do like Romans. And it literally took the longest time. Like, all the tables around me, at least it seemed that way, because those were the stories I was telling myself, because I was feeling so uncomfortable. But I was like, there was almost this excitement of like, all right, I got this. Challenge accepted. All right, let's see how it goes. And when you get curious of how it's going to go, it's almost like that fear goes away. Like, your brain can't process fear and curiosity and excitement all at once. We usually have one that is going to be dominant. And when we look at when we look at it as curiosity, or look at it as a challenge, then the fear just kind of fades. Like, it goes, I don't know, it goes out the window. Anyways, yeah, that's just my story in Italy. And I had no phone, and I must have finished the water because I wanted something to do to at least look like I'm busy. And I just remember, ultimately, I was just like, you can make eye contact, it's fine. And I started slowly, after like 10, 15 minutes, I started just looking around me, and I did get some looks. I think I did, because obviously we believe that everyone's judging us because we're feeling so awkward. But chances are, actually, nobody really noticed, or honestly, nobody cared. Like, if I saw somebody sitting in the restaurant, I'm like, oh my God, that person's cool. So, like, sitting alone. And I think when you learn and to just, I started smiling at people and just being like, oh, hey, this is normal. And all of a sudden it was just, I've gone out many times since to eat on my own. And it's actually happened where I was once out eating on my own, and this person walks in and they asked me a question, and I was like, I actually invited them to sit down with me, and I had the absolute greatest conversation. I made a really good friend. And it was so like, you have no idea what one thing will lead to, is what I'm saying. How one thing will lead to the next. And I think just embracing, like, recognizing fear as a challenge, recognizing the stories that we're telling ourselves and stopping it in the tracks, and just being like, oh, hey, that's an interesting story. Hey, Shirley, sit down and be quiet now. And kind of letting maybe Tim come up. I don't know why Tim, but Tim is the friend that's like, oh, hey, this is a challenge. This is so fun. Oh my God, let's face this challenge. And sometimes I just take it 5 minutes at a time, right? Like, sometimes I'll just take a challenge 5 minutes time. Then I think fear just becomes a lot, it almost becomes an exciting thing to face, as opposed to this debilitating, and absolutely freezing. What's the word? Not freezing, but like, it kind of causes us to freeze. So yeah. And I think it also, when I do look at fear in that sense, in the sense of like, oh, this is a challenge, I feel like I can tap into my inner courage, right? I feel like I can tap into the fight mode in me, and not the fight or flight, not the flight, right? Not just free or freeze, right? Because now it's not fear. I'm telling my body like, ooh, we can handle this. This is a challenge, as opposed to this is panic. So yeah, that's basically what I would say about the what ifs. What if just don't listen to the stories, and just recognize it as a challenge, and just go. Just, I don't know. Again, I still have fears, but I'm working on them one at a time. Starting a podcast was one of them. So, and here we are 1 month in. So I clapped for myself because I can't hear you clapping. And I hope you and our little huddle that we had earlier is clapping, because I'm here supporting you guys. I'm really here supporting you, my few listeners. And I'm so grateful for you. Okay, we're gonna read one more question and close off. The fear of failure is a common one. How do you redefine failure, and what mindset shifts can help us embrace it as a stepping stone to grow rather than something to be avoided? I feel like we discussed this, right? Well, I didn't discuss the fear of failure, but can we just call the fear of failure absolute BS? Because failing, we have no idea what failure means. Like, okay, so you went out with a plan and maybe that plan didn't turn out to be what your plan was, but maybe a very different plan came up, and that's an awesome and supremely flippantly cool plan. So failure is all in the head. So we can decide what is failing or not. So if we can decide it, then we can clearly just not give it attention, right? So I think when we, again, going back to that, facing it as a challenge as opposed to a fair, almost makes it easier to handle. And if we quote unquote what we define as failure happens when we're facing that challenge, oh my gosh, this is really funny. This is what happens to me all the time. I love baking. Okay, this is just one last story before we close off. I absolutely love baking, and I told people my trick to baking is I just throw ingredients in. Like I don't use really recipes. Sometimes I do, but I don't usually. And I told people my trick is that I only label it after it comes out of the oven. So if it's cookies that spread into like a complete sheet, I'll call it like cookie crisps. Okay, it's like just a flat thing. Or if it's like a cake that fell, I'll just call it chocolate fudge. And then it's not failing. Just give it a different name. Call it something else, and then it's not failing. That's just my own tip. Give it a name after it comes out of the oven. Don't give it a name beforehand, and then you actually didn't fail in your product. So like when I get up, I'm like, I know I want to start something. I have no idea where it's going to go, but I'll call it after. Like I only gave my podcast a name after I had the first episode. You get that? So that's all. Like failure is not actually just failure. Just give it a different, it's just a twist. It's just find a different name for the success that you had. That's all I'm saying. All right. I'm going to close off here for now. Thank you so much, listeners. Huddle, huddle, huddle. Woo. Imagine you put your hands in and then pick them all up together. Okay. We just did that like little huddle thing. Anyways, I love you all. Thank you so much for joining me. Again, questions, comments, concerns, requests, kindly keep them to yourself. Oh no, obviously I want to hear them. Don't keep them to yourself. Share them, shout them out, shout your truth. Talk to me, reach out to me. I love you. Thank you for joining. And may we all have a wonderful and blessed day. Sending so much love and light out there.